What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to my Toram online weapon damage per second tier list. With tier 5 skills quickly approaching, should be this month, I think it's a good time to go ahead and rank all of the weapons in terms of their damage per second capabilities and give you guys my thoughts and opinions on where these weapons should stand on a tier list. Now, if you disagree with any of the points I make on this video, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to be reading comments very thoroughly and hearing your guys' thoughts and opinions. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, so starting off, I'm going to go ahead and start off with One-Handed Sword. I think it's one of the most common weapons in the game, definitely because it has so many different builds and applications it can be used in. But I'm going to go ahead and put One-Handed Sword in S tier. With the recent addition of the new Knight skills, it has a skill called Revenir, which does just pretty much insane damage with a sword and shield. It outperforms many other weapons in terms of just raw damage and versatility. I mean, One-Handed Sword has super quick auto attacks and very low animation commitment, making it an overall very safe weapon and pretty easy to use. The attack MP recovery isn't too bad either. And Revenir, just being a monster of a skill, absolutely puts this weapon on S tier. Now, it does have some other builds like One-Handed Sword and Dagger. You can go like assassin type, class or other options as well. For the most part, I think it belongs in S tier because of the Knight skills. Definitely giving it a huge damage. Just huge damage all across the board. The only issue comes with One-Handed Sword is in its own skill tree, like Meteor Breaker, Buster Blade. If you're just using One-Handed Sword, the damage isn't going to be really great. It's definitely not going to be comparable to that of Two-Handed Sword, which we will get into later. But because of the addition of the Revenir skill, I absolutely do believe that One-Handed Sword deserves a spot S tier right now. Okay, cool. Next weapon we are going to be ranking is the Katana. I think easily another S tier weapon. There's actually, in my opinion, quite a few S tier weapons currently, but Katana is definitely one of them. Katana, as well as One-Handed Sword, one thing I need to talk about is the fact that they both get attack scaling off of strength and dexterity. And this is really important because strength will give critical damage. Dexterity will also give accuracy. And overall, accuracy helps to increase your stability, making your damage more consistent, more reliable, and usually just much higher, right? So both Sword and Katana both get strength and dexterity as their damage per second stats. And one reason why I think Katana deserves S tier, actually there's a couple reasons. Attack MP recovery on this weapon is crazy, especially with skills like Kairiki and Shukuchi. Just amazing attack MP recovery. It gives you plenty of opportunity to build up your MP. And also this is a very spammable class. Its skills are very cheap and very easy to use. In addition to those skills being very cheap, very high damage, right? So you're getting plenty of value out of the little MP you're spending to do just monstrous damage with 10 Ryu. Daryu also gives great physical pierce to help take down some of those like more difficult, more beefy bosses as well. I think it easily deserves a spot on the S tier, like without a doubt. Next weapon, Magic Device. So we're going to be our first D tier. Magic Device has never really been used for damage per second. We have some sneak peek previews of certain Magic Device skills that might be coming in tier 5 that actually might put this higher on a spot in the future. But for now, it's not ever used for DPS. There's no reason to use a Magic Device over a staff at the moment. Definitely, I think it's D tier. The only thing you could really use it for is farming, but since this is a damage per second tier list, absolutely deserves a D tier spot. Can't really use it for much damage per second. Not really a reason to use this over other weapons. But next we have another S tier weapon. In fact, I think this is better than both of these that we have put so far. Okay, Two-Handed Sword. Dude, what a monster. Two-Handed Sword also gets the strength, dexterity, stat spread. Again, increasing that critical damage and that accuracy, giving more stability, more stable, and reliable damage. Just very high in this case. Two-handed swords are known for very large weapon attack, like very high damage, modifiers. And two-handed swords can produce some of the highest damage that you can possibly at the moment. I think two-handed sword is really insane. The buff on Warcry, you get 30% attack instead of 10% attack when you're wielding a two-handed sword. just overall a damage powerhouse, especially with the addition of like Soul Hunter. I've seen people do like 5-6 million damage with one skill, and I just think that's insane. It also has access to Meteor Breaker, which is an iframe skill. That's something you're going to be seeing. A lot of these S tier weapons have iframe skills. An iframe is an invincibility frame, helps you dodge enemy attacks, and it's really helpful, especially for more difficult bosses. So yes, very insane high damage, very great stability, good stat spread. Overall, I think cements its spot as right now arguably the best weapon in Toram Online in terms of just straight damage per second. It's a monster. It's a monster. You should check out some YouTube videos on. I mean, they're all over on Two-Handed Sword, just doing insane damage. I don't personally play Two-Handed Sword, but the next weapon that we're going to be talking about is bow. Guys, another S tier choice in my opinion. Bow is also really crazy for some of the same reasons. Again, you're going to see this as a common thing, but it does benefit from that strength, dexterity, stat spread. So, high accuracy, high stability, high critical damage, just it's a great weapon. One thing that bow really has as an advantage over most of these other things is range. Its range is crazy. I mean, it helps you keep safe. It helps you, make sure you can reliably fire off your damage at any time. A lot of other weapons would struggle with like spikes and stuff like that. But bow doesn't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. Any melee attacks, bow is really safe from it, okay? And not to mention, it's just overall insane damage. Crossfire does absolutely nutty damage. Satellite Arrow has access to physical pierce, help you take down some of those beefier enemies. It also does insane damage. I mean, bow is definitely, I'm gonna go ahead and put this, by the way, bow definitely deserves, hold on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, bow definitely deserves this number 2 spot, in my opinion, for the game. Again, guys, if you disagree with any of my rankings, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I'm definitely gonna be reading the comments and taking your guys' opinions, and kind of gonna be thinking about all of them, right? So bow, just very, very strong, easy to use, very safe weapon, very high damage weapon. Bow is just crazy. Next weapon we're gonna be talking about is Knuckle. Okay, actually, my very first YouTube video you'll see on this channel is actually about my Knuckle build, where I have like, I'm gonna have to put Knuckle just above Magic Device, but still in C tier. Knuckle, ever since release, has been struggling. Knuckle has never really been a good weapon in terms of damage per second. Very underused. But recently, with the addition of a few new equipment coming from monsters, you actually have a pretty high weapon attack weapon that'll help you do some more damage per second. But with that being said, the stat spread on Knuckles is actually going to be agility and strength for the most numbers, and that leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to accuracy and stability, right? So very unstable damage, very unpredictable damage. Oftentimes you can get much lower damage than you really like to. Another detriment to stability is skills like Annihilator. Again, they buff up your weapon attack but drop your stability, right? So more unstable damage. Sacrificed for more damage per second. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it in C tier. Even in the best cases with Knuckle, you're really not gonna be having great damage. I mean, not anywhere near compared to any of our weapons in S tier. The damage is always pretty lackluster, even with 2-slot damage to element, super high budget gear. Knuckle will barely even start to scratch the surface of other, damage per second. With that being said, you can make Knuckle do some pretty big numbers. It's just the amount of effort and spinna you'll need to dump into your build it makes it completely not worth it in my opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it in C tier. The only reason why it's above Magic Device is because it can at least do damage sometimes. If you've seen my YouTube video, you know that. But for the most part, it's definitely above Magic Device, Magic Device really can't do much in terms of damage. Second. Alright, moving into our next pick is Halberd. One of my favorite weapons in the game. I absolutely love this weapon, but I'm going to put it in A tier, okay? Halberd's stat spread is going to be strength and agility, okay? Strength and agility, which means, obviously we're not getting that dexterity, we're not getting that accuracy, and we're not getting that stability. So usually you can expect low stability, very, very, varying numbers when it comes to your damage. It's going to be very unpredictable. But with that being said, Halberd has very high damage, very huge numbers. I mean, if you want to hit large numbers in Toram, Halberd is definitely one of those classes to do so. And on top of that, Halberd has access to 100% physical pierce in one of its skills, which is very, very helpful with some of these bosses that have extra defense and the like, right? So there's a couple of issues with Halberd, one of them being attack MP recovery. You will find that you will have to try very hard to get your MP back with this build. You will need a lot of things to help you out, like equipment, and maybe going out of your way to pick up a few extra skills just to help you get that more attack MP recovery for your weapon. And the other thing is these skills are very expensive. Dragon Tooth cost about 5 MP, making it not extremely spammable. So expensive skills matched with, hard to get MP in most cases equals a weapon that is a little harder to use than most, okay? It's not very easy to use, not very beginner friendly. But with all that being said, once you do get the proper build on this thing, dude, the numbers are huge, the numbers are insane. Very fun weapon, in my opinion, and I think it's definitely worth trying out. Next weapon we have is Dual Sword. I'm gonna put Dual Sword in A tier. I don't think it's better than Halberd, but Dual Sword is great. I think it's a great weapon. It has access to very, very quick, speedy skills like Shining Cross. Very fast. It has access to plenty of iframes in like Phantom Slash and Storm Reaper. Plenty of other things. So it's very easy to solo monstrous because you get so many iframes with this weapon. Very quick and safe to use. One of the things drawing it back is again going to be that stat spread. I think the highest damage per second build you can get with Dual Sword is going to be that strength agility, right? So all three, Halberd, Dual Sword, and Knuckle, both use strength agility, which sets all of their stability back quite a bit because we don't get that accuracy bonus from dexterity. We're getting grazing, and that's just an issue that the weapon will have. But overall, another big issue with Dual Sword, one of the reasons why it's not quite S tier, is you get absolutely no physical pierce, which means you're going to have to be heavily investing in terms of equipment to actually add physical pierce on your weapons to actually start doing more damage to higher defense bosses, which really sets this, this weapon back. But other than that, man, super flashy. The damage is usually pretty high and very fast in terms of, damage per second. Very quick weapon. And also very, very fun and flashy. It's actually one of the most fun weapons in the game. But in terms of just raw damage, I think it ranks just below all of our S tier buddies. All right, coming in with our next weapon, we're gonna have Staff. We're gonna have to put it B tier. With the addition of Nemesis, which is a new skill, Nemesis is actually a really, really good skill. I think it's from the Priest skills. Actually gives Staff a big chance. Okay, Staff has always really struggled in terms of raw damage per second because of the skill Finale. Okay, Finale takes forever to cast, and it takes forever to actually put out on the field. And yes, the numbers are pretty big usually, but you're taking a very long time to actually do those big numbers, which really draws this weapon back in terms of damage per second. But now with the addition of Nemesis, I think it's actually pretty okay. I'm not gonna say it does more damage per second than Halberd or Dual Sword, but it's definitely really close. I'm gonna have to put it in B tier just because of that fact. You definitely would want to use this over Magic Device, of course, but it's seeing some really decent numbers after the release of Nemesis, and hopefully we can continue to see so, and continue to see Staff grow and get better when it comes to tier 5 skills coming out. I have plenty of hopes for this weapon in the future, but in my opinion right now, I think it's a solid B tier. In my opinion, Staff is also the best beginner weapon to pick up, and I will probably make a YouTube video explaining why I think so, but I definitely think that it is the best beginner's weapon. But once you have all of your equipment settled out, and once you're like kind of, higher level and more situated in the game, I think it definitely starts to fall off compared to all the other weapons on this list. So I'm going to leave it at B tier because it's still definitely very usable and doable. And with our last weapon, we have Bowgun. Bowgun, I don't have plenty of experience with this weapon, but I'm actually going to have to put this also in B tier. In my opinion, I don't think there's much reason to use bowgun over just straight bow. Okay, I don't think there's much reason to. If you guys can think of any like really good reasons to, definitely leave them in the comments down below. I'll read them and I'll get to them. But for the most part, bowgun has very unstable damage as well. You'll see that like instability kind of sets some weapons back. Okay, like when you have more inconsistent weapons, it's very difficult usually, right? But it's very unstable. It loses a lot of that utility that bow gives in terms of like having status with some of your skills and stuff, and it's all in exchange for higher damage, but that damage is definitely more unstable. But for the most part, it's gonna play very, very similarly to bow, just in my opinion, not quite as well and not quite as reliable as bow. So that's why I think it deserves a spot in B tier. Again, I don't have too much experience with this weapon, and I don't really see it used very often, in my opinion, for good reason. But I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it at B tier. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments down below, of course. But anyway, guys, this is my opinionated Toram Online weapon tier list. This is again strictly for damage per second, right? So no support, no nothing like that. This is just for damage per second, and this is all my opinion. So feel free to let me know your thoughts and opinions. Disagree with me, all that. I'm definitely open to what you guys think. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Please consider liking the video if you like to see more content like this, and if you want to see more content from me, please leave a sub. It really helps me out. I definitely want to do more Toram content, and I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching the video, and peace out.